Yo, good evening, everybody. What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Pastor Dixon here. Praying that it's well with you tonight on this Sunday evening. Been a little bit on the go over the last few days. Feeling a little weary, but continue on in strength, in the strength and the power of activism. Social justice activism, some real change that we can believe in, change that's desperately needed in our nation, in our state of South Carolina, and in North Charleston, the city that I'm currently running in order to be the mayor of that city. Good evening, everyone. I see some folks jumping on. Good to see y'all. Lex, what's going on? Thanks for that shout out. I appreciate you. That's for sure. We got big things to do. We got much work to do. We got much needed work to do. Hello, wifey. Yes, the love of my youth. She's on board. Thank you for your support. Pam, I see you. I see you. All the way from Canada, for sure. So we're going to wait a few minutes before we get started. And I'm going to talk briefly. I guess you all see. I hope y'all can hear this humming in the back because I'm outside of our home right now. I kind of had to flee from my grand a little bit. Sometimes she gets to be overprotective of Pop. But I love it. I love it. And that's one of the reasons why I stay in this struggle for truth, justice, righteousness, and freedom. Is because I know that we're going to turn this world over to my grandchildren and their children. And from this point, we need to make sure that we're not leaving a mess for them, something that we can fix today, that we're leaving in a messed up place for them to inherit. If it's all within my power, I'm going to make sure that does not happen. And part of my ensuring that doesn't happen involves my running for mayor of North Charleston, because I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired of people who have the ability to help people, but instead they choose not to for whatever reason. I don't know. It could just be plain dumb ignorance. I don't know. It could be selfish motivations. I don't know. And to be honest with you, it really it's not my business what their concerns are. My business is to make sure that people are being taken care of and being taken care of properly, that our children are getting educated, that people get paid a fair wage in 2019, 2020, not paid according to a scale from 15 to 20 years ago, that people can sit on their porches or walk down the streets or go to the mall or to the movie without worrying about getting their head shut off, and that people don't have to worry about being forced out of their homes, the homes that they've made in their communities for decades, with plans for a bright future, communities that have been allowed to implode upon themselves and to become ghetto havens because there's been no investment in those communities, while other communities around them have been invested in, and those residents get a chance to thrive and enjoy the American dream. So that's why I do what I do. And as I said, this is Thomas Dixon, Pastor Thomas Dixon to some, Thomas Dixon to others, Tom to others. In my past life, I was Tom Slick. That guy's dead now and resurrected as Pastor Dixon. Soon to be. We got about, I think, maybe 45 days or so, if that much. Yeah, about 45 days or so before the election. Please get registered. And so start off every one of these lives. Get registered to vote. Right now, you have 6 days to get registered to vote. Okay? If you have a valid South Carolina ID card or a valid South Carolina license, you can actually use this same phone and the internet access that you have right now to go online to scvotes.org and look for registration, voter registration. And you can register to vote right now if you have a valid South Carolina driver's license or a valid South Carolina ID. Get registered now. That's the first step. That's step one. From that point, you have an obligation to exercise your right to vote. And the election day is November 5th of this year, where you'll be voting for the mayor of North Charleston, mayor of Charleston, the city councils that accompany those mayorships. And it's time for you to be a part of the system that governs your everyday lives. For those that have been involved in criminal activities and have gone up that road, who have done time, first off, in South Carolina, you can vote. Okay, if you're off paper, you can vote. If you're off probation and parole, you're through with your charges. Even if you got pending charges you ain't been to court for, you can register and you can vote. So get registered now. Good to see everybody jumping on. Good to see that. Get registered now, because you have only 6 days to register. You have to be registered 1 month in advance of the election, and the election is November the 5th. So please get ready, get registered now. Tell somebody. Don't just get this information online right now. Tell somebody. And listen, if you feel that the information that you're receiving right now from me via this live broadcast, I want you to just imagine in the broadest spectrum that you have a mayor that's also ready to give you information that's going to empower you and strengthen you to live a better life and to be a partaker of the American dream. That's what's going to happen when I'm elected on November 5th of this year. Now, for those that have been a part of the criminal enterprises here, those who complain about the system never does anything for me, well, it's probably because you haven't voted. You have not stood up and put people in place that are going to work and speak up on your behalf. Me, I know about that activities. I got 30 years of it under my belt. I ain't been saved all my life, but I have been saved for the last 19 years of my life, 18 years of my life. And for those 18 years, I've been trying to clean up what I done messed up. And I ain't doing a bad job, because it's taken me from a Senate run in 2016 against Tim Scott to a mayoral run against a close friend of Donald Trump and a Donald Trump supporter, and that's Mayor Keith Summey. And it's time to beat him. It's time to remove him from his office. 25 years in that office, and let me just say why, okay? And then we're going to get on off into policing. The reason why Mayor Summey, in my humble opinion, needs to go now is because he's had 25 years to do right by the south end of North Charleston, the end that happens to look like me. People of color and poor people, poor white people too there, Latinos. He's had 25 years to do right by the south end of North Charleston, and anybody that goes through the south end of North Charleston knows that he ain't done nothing right by that end, while other ends of this city are flourishing. Don't fall for the banana in the tailpipe right now. All the cookouts and fish fries and all of that, you know. Don't fall for Dorothy Williams standing next to a Bernie Sanders poster. She's been part of the problem. 30 years, and you ought to walk through the Wayland and you'll know what I'm talking about. If we were going to do something, they had plenty of time to do it. So it's time to repeal and replace all of those who have had the opportunity to make change in our community and have refused to do so, especially while they watch other communities flourish. That's why I'm running for office. I'm tired of talking to people. I'm tired of being frustrated by bringing truth to people, and they don't accept that truth and do anything about it. Because when they don't do anything about it, it's our children who attend failing schools and who ultimately are being set up for the school or prison pipeline that's either going to lead them to a life of drug dealing, that's going to lead them to the cemetery or to jail. Okay? That's plain and simple. They're not doing what it takes in order to make sure that people are getting paid right, a decent wage in 2019, and they're not doing right by even trying to end gun violence. End gun violence, to stop the shed of blood in our community. It's about time that we have people that do that. And most of you all know me. Some of y'all know me. Some of y'all know this red scarf, right? It's a red scarf that says enough. And that scarf has become a symbol of somebody that you know will fight on your behalf. I was on Real Talk with Rajan about a couple of months ago, and Rajan Lewis, he asked me, well, you're an activist, what are you going to do when you become mayor? I had to return that with a question. Why is it that a mayor can't be an activist? I don't understand that. I just don't understand that at all. Why the mayor should be an activist. So should our city council people. So should our school board members. Should be activists that are active in promoting our community and supporting our community and doing what's right for our community. So I'll never stop being an activist. I'll be an even more, a greater activist, a bigger activist from the mayor's office, because that's a big bully pulpit. Talk about school boards. I've been up in school boards more times than I want to think about. And they put me on that little timer that says 2 minutes at the end, and I introduce myself, and it's a minute and a half left. When at the end of that, the buzzer goes off, and I still got things to say, and they tell me, have a nice day, Pastor Dixon. Well, I'm going to tell you all, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Once I win this election, having 8 failing schools in my city, you can believe they're going to see the mayor come up in the school board. We don't have to have no secret meetings and carrying on. We're going to do this out front. And when I walk up in there, they're not going to tell me, Mayor Dixon, that you have 2 minutes to speak. Not as long as we're paying tax dollars in order to support that school system. It's time for some activism. It's time for some bold leadership. And this is that bold leadership that you need sitting right here. When we win this election, my shirt says it right here. Do you believe us now? Yes, that will be the motto the night of the election. Do you believe us now? This shirt came out of the Walter Scott incident. My good friend Cal Morrison contacted me after Walter Scott was shot, and Faden Santana produced a video that changed the whole course of the investigation. A narrative was being written to get Michael Slager, the cop, off. It was being written by those in City Hall, from the mayor right on through the police department. This was the scenario that was being written. At that time, Chief Driggers was the chief of police. And I want to make that certain. But that was the narrative. They were writing this to say, okay, Slager killed Walter Scott because he feared for his life. And so until that video came out, and it showed an entirely different story. And this is something that we have been telling law enforcement for a long time, that there was over-aggressive policing going on in North Charleston every day against people in color, black people of color, black and brown people being harassed by the police department, stopped unnecessarily by the police department. We have been telling them that for a long time, and they acted like they didn't believe us. Well, on April 4, 2015, at about 9:35 in the morning, Walter Scott was murdered by a North Charleston Police Department officer, Officer Michael Slager, shot in the back 5 times. He was hit 5 times, although he shot 8 shots at him. Killed him. It was actually murder because he was running away. And had the scenario that they were building gone through, and there was nothing else to refute that, Michael Slager would have gotten off. He would have been off and would not have been convicted the way he was. But there was a bystander. There was somebody who just happened to be walking past. Good evening.
Hey,
how are you? Doing all right?
Yes,
all right? Yeah. There was somebody who just happened to be walking past at the same time. A young man by the name of Faden Santana, a good friend of mine, who pulled out his cell phone, lowered it just far enough so that the officer couldn't see him, and he filmed what happened. And so, right after that, though, I think it happened that Faden might have gone to the police department to turn that in and say, I've got something. But while he was sitting there waiting, somebody told him, wait a minute. And while he was sitting there waiting, Faden, something in his mind said, don't stay here. And I believe in my heart that had he turned in that video, we never would have seen that video. We never would have seen what happened. Remember, I'm talking about North Charleston Police Department, a police department that has a very bad reputation, a police department that operates up under a mayor that has been alleged, and there's been quite a few Post and Courier articles that his actions are not always above board, okay? But Faden sitting there waiting, they said, wait. Faden said that maybe this is not a good idea for me to wait here. And he got up and left the police department. And he turned that video over to a community leader. He actually had reached out to me that night, and I didn't see the Facebook message until a couple of months later, actually, because we weren't friends at that time on Facebook. But he did reach my good friend and the late civil rights leader here in the Low Country, one of the greatest I've ever known, Mujahideen Dabaha. He contacted Moye, the nickname Moye. He contacted Moye with that video, and they arranged to get the video in the hands of the attorneys for the family. And the rest is history. 3 days later, the media, while the city was developing this false scenario in order to get Slager off, the video was released to the general public, and everybody could see from that point that Walter Scott was murdered. He was shot in his back running away from Michael Slager. And it was at that point when I was contacted by Cal Morrison, who said, I got this idea for a t-shirt. We've been trying all these years to let them know that about the police department that's been doing this type of thing for so long. And Walter Scott wasn't the first time that a North Charleston police officer killed somebody where they didn't have to die. But Cal contacted me and he said, I got this thing. We just put on the front of it real simple. Do you believe us now? And we started producing them. And folks started wearing these Do You Believe Us Now t-shirts. And they've been wearing them consistently for a long time now. And the problem with that is, though, here we are from April 4th, 2015, when this happened, to April 7th, when the video, 2015, when the video surfaced, until now, September 29th, 2019, and we still have to ask the question, do you believe us now? Because there's still so many different things going on within our law enforcement, within our school boards, within the economic status, and in our communities. So we got to do something now. And the something that we're doing now involves me running for mayor. And when I win, we'll wear this t-shirt that says, I think we'll change the t-shirt. Cal, if you're listening, we'll change the t-shirt. I guess you'll believe us now. Because we ain't playing with you. Okay? So instead of having to bargain with people that aren't listening to us, having to watch as our lives are being destroyed in our community while others are flourishing, we will replace the current administration with someone who you all know is going to do right by the community. You don't have to guess about it. This is not a walk up and here's my platform and you've never seen anything else and hope that I'm going to do the right thing. No, you know what I'm going to do already. So your vote is a vote for your future when you vote for me, Thomas Dixon. It's just that simple. But in the aftermath of Walter Scott, we formed a coalition called the North Charleston Civil Coalition for Reform. This was a group spearheaded by Mujahideen Dabaha and others in the community together, because Moye never really wanted to be like, he never wanted to take like that center of attention, because he believed in the effectiveness of a broad coalition and that we were all leaders in our own right, which is something that I believe in. And if you don't believe so, you need to get with it. Okay, you need to get with it. It's time for us to come up, folks. It's time for we the head, not the tail. Okay, and when I say that we, I mean all we, regardless of color, race, creed, or economic status. We are the head. We are human beings, and we all deserve the right to life, liberty, and happiness. Okay, but the Civil Coalition, North Charleston Civil Coalition for Reform, came up with a list of demands that they actually presented to the mayor and the city council. And if you research the city council archives in order to see the heated debates that went on between the community, the mayor, and his city council during that time, you have to sit back and scratch your head and say, who these people work for? You know the mayor works for you, right? You know any money that he spends is your money, right? I hope you know that. Anytime the council approves money to be spent, that's your money they're approving, right? Y'all got it? Okay. If you ain't got it, log it now. Okay. That way, when I win this election, then you'll know who to hold accountable to for the money spending and your community. All right? Myself and my council. But the North Charleston Coalition for Civil Reform came up with a few things, a few reforms, actually 12 of them. I'm not going to read over all of them, But some of the things that I talk about now are the things that were definitely noted in the North Charleston Coalition for Civil Reform 12-step program in order to bring peace and justice to the city of North Charleston with law enforcement and to bridge the gap between the community and law enforcement. Anybody out there know that there's a gap between law enforcement and the inner city community, the urban community? Huh? I know it. It's probably why we can't get people get our children to become police officers anymore. You know, how are you going to be something that you're afraid of? I didn't lose a signal. I paused for effect right there. Yes, that's the real. Now, when it comes to this policing, and yesterday, shout out to Charleston Area Justice Ministry, Charleston Moves, Best Friends of Low Country Transit, League of Women Voters, North Charleston NAACP, the ACLU, Civil Liberties and the Legal Defense Fund. All of these that came together put on the forum yesterday. And one of the topics they talked about was policing. And so when I think about the North Charleston Coalition for Civil Reform and the 12 common sense things that they asked for of the mayor and the city council, 12 things that were totally rejected by this city council and this mayor, things that would have bridged the gap between law enforcement and the community and made the community feel safe with the law enforcement officers that they have, then I have to stop and wonder, you know, why? Why? It makes no sense to me. Anytime that you're going to make it better for people, we need to make it better for people. So with law enforcement, you got to think about it, okay? Law enforcement is supposed to be a deterrent to criminal activity. A deterrent to criminal activity. And so, in other words, supposed to be a visible presence to make sure that people know that they're here in order to prevent crime. Okay, not supposed to be overly aggressive or anything like that, or Gestapo tactics or be militia type. No, they're supposed to be a visible deterrent to crime. They're supposed to serve and protect. Not be aggressive or to be judge and jury and executioner, but to serve and protect. And the majority of the law enforcement officers that I know, okay, and I know quite a few officers, that's exactly what they do. They serve and protect. But there is a select number of them that are in this for the wrong reasons, and whatever reasons, they have it in their minds that aggressive policing or over-aggressive policing is acceptable. And it could be that way, that might be in their minds because they've never been corrected in that thought process effectively. Just telling somebody don't do that ain't always going to change it. I got children. Some of y'all got children. Just telling them don't do that ain't always going to change it. Okay? So, the police are supposed to be a deterrent to crime, but the problem that we face when it comes to policing is, what is the deterrent to the police for criminal activity? There is no deterrent to criminal activity among the police. Basically, if they're the deterrent for civilian crime, there's no deterrent for them to have criminal activity. Is it SLED? Some would say SLED because we know that SLED gets called in, especially in officer-involved shootings. Well, I put this out like that. And, you know, we got to trust somebody, but I just have a problem when the police police the police. I say that again. I have a problem when the police police the police. They're not impartial. They're police officers no matter which way it goes. They're law enforcement no matter which way it goes. They're on the same team no matter which way it goes. Do they have the ability to, yes, do the right thing? Absolutely. But I think I would feel a lot more comfortable if there was a watchdog committee of civilians selected by the people, of the people, by the people, and for the people, that actually watched over police activities. SLED too. In other words, I believe that we need an effective civilian review board that has oversight over our police department in the events of any kind of questions, not just internal affairs, but a civilian sector that's not connected to the police department, but connected to the community, that will review the same thing Internal Affairs would and come up with an answer from the community standpoint and report it out, not only to law enforcement and to the mayor's office and to whatever judicial entities, but also back to the community as to this what happened, the good, the bad, and ugly. If it was a situation where a police officer did right, then the community would know immediately. Coming from some people that they trust is going to tell them the truth. If he did wrong, the civilian review will report back to the community. It's being handled. Here's what happened. We're moving forward, but yes, there was some wrongdoing in this. You see, those are simple things that would bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community. And as long as you got nothing to hide, then it should be no problem with it. So civilian review boards will definitely be a deterrent to criminal activity. Right along with the fact that we need to go on and complete the racial bias audit of the police department, and that's for sure, just as they did in downtown Charleston just recently. Something that is being delayed in North Charleston, just as the original police audit that was actually done 2 years ago was actually stonewalled by the current presidential administration and former Attorney General Jeff Sessions. They just wouldn't give us the report back. I wonder why. We know that the mayor is a friend of the president's, right? So if that was my friend, I would say, look, we paid for that report. Give us our report, please. Mr. President, my friend, I endorsed you before the primary. Please, can I have my report? If there's nothing, as long as there's nothing to be hidden in there, okay? But maybe, I don't know, maybe there was reason not to bring it back. I don't know what happened behind that. But Charleston Area Justice Ministry and others have called for North Charleston to have a racial bias audit done again, okay? And for some reason or other, they're steadily stalling it out. When I'm elected mayor, that'll be one of the first things that we do move forward with. We will do the racial bias audit along with a forensic audit of all of our North Charleston files for the last 15 years. I want to dig up everything that's there that shouldn't be there, because I know that I need to start on a clean slate. And if there are people that get caught up in that because they did wrong over the last 15 years, that ain't my business. That ain't my business. I'm about truth telling. I'm a whistleblower, okay? All right? Because I wasn't involved in it, I ain't no snitch. If I was involved in it, I'd be a snitch. But I'm a whistleblower, I'm a truth teller. And so in order to start off this administration on the right foot, we will do a complete forensic audit of all North Charleston departments, and also definitely do the racial bias audit of the police department, okay? So these are deterrents. These are things that's going to let those in law enforcement who might be a little twisted in their thought process know, ain't nobody playing with y'all. You're not going to do that and get away with these things under my watch at all. We're going to change the whole dynamic of law enforcement. We're going to end pretext stops. We're definitely going to end pretext stops. Those are stops that are based on a profile, or just that I think that you've done something wrong. You look like something. You got a nice car with rims on it, so you must be a drug dealer. I'm pulling you over. I know your lights are, your car's a little bit beat up and out of shape, or it looks like somebody with dreads driving it, so I'm gonna pull you over. No, that dog ain't gonna hunt no more in North Charleston. We're going to make North Charleston Police Department a police department that the people want to interact with and to deal with on a regular basis. And our children will grow up not to fear police, but to say, as they at one time did say, I want to become a police officer when I get older. And then groom them in order to be able to do so. So those routine pretext stops, they gotta go. They gotta go. And a lot of times we have problems with people who are afraid to use the hotlines or whatever. I think there's some other things that we can do imaginatively. We might be able to even set up like complaint kiosks, where somebody might be, going through the mall or whatever, or have an isolated place, and just have a place where you can actually, file a complaint at. Look like a regular something or other, and file a complaint there anonymously, where it can't be traced back to you. We need to begin to get the information highway from the community to law enforcement, once we really trust law enforcement, so that we could begin to have them help us make our communities safe again. We have an obligation to our own communities to make sure that our communities are safe. Along with that, a lot of these pretext stops and whatever have been over weed, okay? Marijuana, okay? Listen, one of the things that's going to stop these pretext stops and the jailhouse being filled up the way it is, the county jail being filled up the way it is that in North Charleston, we're going to definitely decriminalize small amounts of weed. That's it. If you carrying a small amount of weed, look here, we're going after big dogs. But if you're a casual user, and the casual user will be defined, clearly defined, so don't even try it. You know, it's Pastor Dixon. I come from that world, okay? I've been about that life, you know. I probably smoked more weed in my life than all of y'all. And I'm going to say that because I ain't smoked nothing, not even a cigarette, in a very, very long time, okay? So, and I don't do dope. I don't do drugs at all. But we're going to make sure that we're not filling up our jail cells with people who do not need to be in jail, okay? And having a small amount of weed does not constitute criminal activity, okay? I know a lot of people that did weed in my life, and I don't remember any of them ever sticking anybody up for some, you know, unless they were dealing in weight or something like that. But your casual users, nah, we have got to stop this foolishness. So those are some of the things that we can do in order to deter bad policing. In the case of well, there's one more great thing that we definitely will have to do, and that's we will reward those in law enforcement who go against the blue wall of silence. You see, the blue wall of silence is the police department, law enforcement's equivalent of the no snitch rule. Basically, in law enforcement, other officers can see, one officer can see another officer doing wrong, but because of the blue wall of silence, they don't turn that officer in. Basically, they don't snitch on them. Well, North Charleston, we're going to change that around. Because those who want to hide behind the blue wall of silence, see wrong and don't report wrong, if they ever get caught again, they're going to be treated in the same manner that the perpetrator that they're protecting was treated. And they will be terminated from service in North Charleston, never be able to be hired in North Charleston. As a matter of fact, we'll find a way in order to make sure that their name gets inputted in the National Crime Information Computer so that they never work in law enforcement again. You see, these are deterrents to criminal activity. I'm trying to stop crime, preventive measures to stop criminal activity within the ranks of those who are tasked with protecting us from criminal activity. And I think that's one way that we're going to be able to do it. We have to eliminate the blue wall of silence by opening up the door for people to do the right thing by one another. That thing that's really hard. And that's to make sure that our department is acting in an honorable and a respectable and equitable manner 24/7, so that the community will in turn be able to be model citizens, modeled after our law enforcement, not a law enforcement agency that waffles or wavers in between the good and the bad and the ugly of law. No, there's only one rule of law, and we're all to abide by it, and that rule is truth, justice, and honesty, period. Okay? And as mayor, as the next mayor of North Charleston, I'll make sure that our law enforcement comes up to that level. And I'm sure our current chief would really want to get to that level also. And I'll do everything I can in order to help him get to that level. Not walking in and firing a bunch of law enforcement officers. Not walking in and saying, I'm glad to see y'all walking out, because I will try my best to get every officer to understand, stay. Because it's going to get better for you as it gets better for the community. I want everybody to understand that. Now, there are other deterrents, okay? And I'm going to do this briefly so we can get off of here. I think I've been on long enough. When it comes to officer-involved shootings, there needs to be serious deterrents before law enforcement officers in place so law enforcement officers will think twice before pulling that weapon and shooting somebody, okay? First off, as it stands now, we have to request Department of Justice and Civil Rights investigations. I don't understand that. When an officer shoots a civilian, I think that the DOJ criminal and civil rights investigations need to be automatic. Why do we have to ask for it? We need to take it out of the hands of the local municipalities or the state entities and let the feds come in and do what they do. If at the end of that, the officer is found to be exonerated, well and good. But if that cop has been found guilty, then fullest extent of the law, prosecuted. And that goes to the next step, wouldn't it? You know, these cases, it was well, this Pastor Dixon, I almost cussed, but it was a darn shame to sit there and watch the Scott family be put through what they got put through for 2 years after their son died. 2 years. Even though the video that Faden Santana brought forth clearly showed that man murdered him. Clearly. 2 years before this man was found guilty of murdering him. I think that even though some of these things might be out of the mayor's purview, but then again, the collaboration in the bully pulpit from the mayor's office with our judicial, our judges and things like that might help. But swift trials need to be a part of that. Swift trials with no mercy sentencing if found guilty. Dr. King said, justice delayed is justice denied. And for the Scott family and for many other families, for a long time after law enforcement killed their children, killed their family member, justice was delayed, so justice was denied for them. And they were put through hell for that time because they had to relive this and relive this and relive that. Listen, we're a government that should be for the people. For the people. And to put people through that in a case where there was clear guilt involved in it, that trial could have gone 2 years earlier than when it did. It seriously could, at least 1 year earlier. So we need to have swift trials with no mercy sentencing if found guilty. Maximums. No questions. We don't have to deliberate on this thing. Up the road. See, deterrence, okay? That next person that goes to shoot somebody unnecessarily might stop and think, you know, man, man, I ain't got no win in this thing. I'm going to prison. I'm going to prison real soon, and I ain't gonna be able to get out for the next 20 years, for sure. Coupled along with that, another deterrent is no more paid leave for officers involved in shooting citizens. Okay, that's crazy. You're a cop and you shoot somebody, and you get put on leave, but you get paid leave. Now, I worked a whole lot of jobs, had a lot of vacation time, and during that time, anytime I was off from work and got paid for it, they called it vacation. Okay, so basically what you're telling subconsciously to these law enforcement officers, I can actually kill somebody, and all I'm gonna do is go on vacation, paid leave. No, what we'll do in North Charleston is we'll turn that around. We'll take the paid off the table. We'll give them leave, and then if they're found not guilty, we'll give them back pay. If they're found guilty, then once again, immediate termination, and then filed through the NCIC, never to work in law enforcement again. But immediate back pay once found not guilty. Nothing wrong with that. I don't see anything wrong with that. That's a deterrent. Maybe that cop, before that cop pulls that service gun out and squeezes off a round or two, might stop and think, man, I got family at home. I need to I'm not going to have any checks coming in or whatever. Maybe I better not pull that trigger right now. So that's another thing. And one more. It's amazing how before getting hired in law enforcement, I do believe that they have a psychological exam. And then after that, you don't get any more psychological exams until you shoot somebody. Now, I could be wrong. Somebody can correct me if you want to, but I think that's how it goes. But what we need to do is we need to make sure that within law enforcement, there are annual psychological examinations, because people's mentality changes from day to day. And we need to have early detection systems in place where we can see that somebody might be slipping into a dark hole or depression or whatever that might lead them to a point where they become a danger instead of serving and protecting our citizenry. So those are a few of the things, right along with our community policing. We have to do that. Personally, I'd really like to see that in the police department that we begin to promote law enforcement officers that move into the communities where they live in, where they're working at, where they're assigned to. We offer some type of incentive for them to move into the actual neighborhoods where they are working at and become a part of that community. It makes it hard to abuse people when you're a physical neighbor to them, and you begin to think more of them as humans. And I think that's the whole key. And as your next mayor, that's one of the things I'm going to be working on, is to, with law enforcement, to make sure that all are looking, just as I know our chief is doing right now, making sure that all are looking at everyone as humans, as neighbors, as friends, identifying those that are wrongdoers and dealing with them decisively. But everybody is not a wrongdoer. And just because a person looks a certain way or drives a certain car, lives in a certain zip code, does not automatically make them a wrongdoer. And until we do right by people, we're still going to have people that are, we're going to have a population that says, man, I'm not going to deal with the police. I'm not going to call the police. I don't trust them, you know. We can fix that. And I'm certain that our current chief of police in North Charleston would want to fix that. And I will help him to the fullest extent that I have, knowing the community in the way that I do, which is something our mayor does not know. Sorry, he doesn't know the black and the poor and the brown community. He doesn't know them. They're just a fixture within his city that ultimately, if he keeps on the road that he's going by getting elected again, he's going to eliminate. Okay? So, I've covered a lot of ground. I've stayed on this a lot longer than what I had planned to tonight, and I see a lot of folks that came on and watched. Please share this video out. Let other people know that when it comes to aggressive policing in North Charleston, after this election, the election is November 5th. Absentee voting starts on October 6th. Please get out and vote. Go look on scvotes.org. Check to see if you're registered. If not, register to vote there. And also see if you qualify under one of the 16 reasons why you can absentee vote while you're at that site. If you qualify, go to vote as soon as possible after October 6th. Don't wait for November the 5th to vote. Get her done. Get her done so you can get me in office so I can get her done. You've seen me fighting. You've seen the work I've tried to do. You've seen the scarf I wear, and I don't wear it just for decoration. And somebody laughed at the scarf at one time, but I know one thing. Out of the 5 candidates that we have running for office right now, if any of you all are in trouble, I'm sure you'd rather see that red scarf showing up to help you than any one of the other candidates that's running for office right now. Because you know you can depend on that red scarf to stand up for you and for your rights and for the rights of your children. This is Pastor Dixon. Man, I love you all. You all are the best. Now let's go ahead on and do this. My website is Dixonformayor.com, and holla at your boy, okay? Or send me a text message. Send me a Facebook inbox. Tell me what you want to talk about, okay? Next time out, we're going to take on a new topic. I think it's probably going to be gun violence, especially since we've had this large rash of gun violence over the last few weeks and, man, last few years, well, last few decades. Okay, all right, I give up on that. But since we've had all of this gun violence, it's about time for you to hear what we're going to do to fix that. I got one opponent who back in June 1st talked about a comprehensive gun plan. And it was supposed to come out the next week, and this is 2-3 months later, and they still see no comprehensive, you know. Well, you can't talk about what you ain't did. Me, I've been about it. Brady Campaign to Prevent Gun Violence National Board of Directors, recognized by the National Bar Association for the work I've tried to do in ending gun violence, and rejected in my own city of North Charleston. It's Pastor Dixon. I'm going to wish y'all peace. Y'all have a wonderful evening, man. I love y'all. Take care, and we'll holler at you soon. Peace.